you have to be trying to do your best, and if that's the only way that your work is getting better, better and better, and with this quality also people tend to look at your arts in a different way.
Hi guys, welcome to Carving Fire, The Way of the Artist with myself, Adrian Baxter, and my good friend Chris Saros. We are very happy to welcome our first guest for the podcast in Nestor Avalos. Nestor, how are you?
Hello guys, I am fine.
Hey folks, hello from my side as well. Yeah, we're super happy to have our first guest on tonight. Most of you probably know Nestor as a dark artist and illustrator from Mexico. He has a ton of great bigger and smaller names from the extreme metal scene. We're happy to have you here.
Well, it's my pleasure, my friends, to talk about art and something that's our true passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been following your work, Nestor, for it must be years now, and you've got one of the most consistent styles that I always appreciate in visual artists. And I guess coming out the gate, I kind of wondered what your early styles maybe looked like and how you landed on the one you have now, or did you just start as you are now and kind of develop within that?
Well, I think it starts with it's a process of evolution that I think it's regular, so that happens with all the artists. In the first instance, I think that maintains my work like, as you say, consistent. It's because I try to manage certain kind of topic that is the black magic, rocket path, and also influence it into the extreme metal scene. So that's the tool to help me to be consistent. But in one point also I try to reflect my personal spirituality and philosophy. So that also helps because all the art comes from established certain kind of thinking, philosophy, and a way to live. So yes, of course, I have to have some adaptations because not all my clients are from the extreme metal scene. I worked a few years ago with a pretty big name in the comedian scene here in Mexico.
Cool.
It was pretty cool because it was outside from the metal scene. But at the end, the aesthetics maintains this kind of blasphemous. And also because the comedian tour in that time was called Dios está muerto. God is dead, like the Friedrich Nietzsche phrase.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we combine this kind of aesthetics and with the symbolism in the image with the routine of the comedian. And also I had the chance to work recently with the 69 Eyes. So they are like a gothic thing. So
yeah. Everyone knows them.
And it was a pretty cool project because in a certain kind of my life they were pretty present, and to meet Jerky in person and to talk and have the confidence to develop this project was pretty personal and amazing. It was something totally different because it's more focused in the lettering, create certain kind of numbers with this gothic metal and aesthetics, and also create the full line, the hoodie, the t-shirts, and a cap. But that's the part as a graphic designer that I have my degree in graphic design that helps me to visualize the different options or possibilities that we could manage and develop certain kinds of elements into the merchandising. And and well, with different bands, from pretty extreme black metal bands, from gothic bands. Well, I had this kind of opportunity to be more diverse, and also that helps me that the project, the essence of the project, that is the word of the 𝔚𝔠𝔬𝔪𝔢, could be further just than the metal scene.
I always appreciate them projects that allow you to kind of step a little bit away from your usual way of doing things. Like you say, you still keep your personality in your work, but it's almost kind of pushing you out of, at least for myself personally, the comfort zone, and kind of changes how you think about a project a little bit when you get, like you mentioned about with the comedian. It kind of lets you discover parts of your work that you maybe wouldn't have explored if you hadn't have had that project. And I think every so often they're really good for the creative brain. I think I've had a few of those over the years. They're always fun.
Yeah, and I think the important part is to develop a style. And I think that's the difficult part to being an artist, to find your own style, because you are being bombarded every day with different or a bunch of artists that create certain kind of things. And also you could find certain styles that develop for certain kind of time to time. Well, or a lot of copies from recognized artists. Well, you could see the Mark Reedy card, and you could find a ton of guys trying to be like them. And that's the interesting part of being an artist, to find your own voice in the graphical ways, or even the music, or different expressions of the art. And I think that's important, to have a solid point to depart. And for me, it starts with the aesthetics, but mostly with the concept of doing something blasphemous, something that turning or desecrate what is considered holy for the established religion or society. And the moment that I desecrate that holy image or concepts or mythologies, I create something holy for me. And that's the way that makes a little bit easier my process of creation. But at the end, you have, when you are hired, obviously you have to be into the project. And being into the project, you have to create this methodology, and that kind of methodology helps you to have an organization to develop the process of the creation, something more easier or organized. And I think that's the interesting part. And also, I have been doing this for around, Facebook says 18 years, but I could add around 2 or 3 more years. Yeah. So maybe 21 years doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I forgot to mention something you said in the last question, how my certain kind of aesthetics evolve or change. Always I try to start the process with the hand-drawn sketches, because for me it's helpful. There's something more free. You don't have to be have a limitation of the computer. And with the paper and a pencil, you could create a lot of ideas. And from that kind of a lot of ideas, you can start to develop or create the final draft or the final results of the concept that you want, or you try to manifest at the end. And then, obviously, I start a little bit with the photo composition. I'm talking about, as I said, 20 years ago, we don't have tablets or computers or software with this kind of capability to draw directly into the computer or the screen. So it was another kind of way to resolve or to manifest our things. And also,
sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Do you actually draw on tablets, or, because I was never really sure if you draw digitally or if it's all on paper as well?
Oh, I do both. It depends on the project. Because sometimes, when I work in editorial projects, most of them try to maintain this kind of essence of the magical thing that creates from the mind, from the hand to the paper, this kind of mystical approach to develop the art. But with heavy metal, it was and it is different, because when I have clients, they have a reference of my previous works. So I would like something with this kind of aesthetics. So with my digital projects in Photoshop, that is my main tool right now. Well, I manage certain kind of filters or textures that help me to give this kind of consistent texture for aesthetics or lights.
Yeah, I
So
know exactly what you mean. You have that very specific kind of putting things. And I was wondering, because when I started following you, I have no idea when it was, but I'm sure it was around at least 10 years ago. And I think I remember that back then you used to do it digitally, like on the graphic base rather than drawing. Or do I remember that completely wrong?
Well, it started a little bit like photo manipulation, and I could draw out.
Yeah, because that's what I always remembered, and then at some point it became much more clear that you were like, you started to draw out much more elements than I was thinking before. And because first when I started to follow your stuff, I always thought like you just do photo manipulation entirely on your stuff, and then at some point I started to realize, no, wait, this is actually quite a lot of that stuff is hand drawn.
Yeah, it was a process, like a hybrid process in one point, because when I started rediscovering certain kind of techniques, and also, well, to have the opportunity to afford the tablet and a better computer and so on, because, well, at the end, when you invest, and I think it's a very important part of being an artist, you have to invest in your tools, because your tools helps you to get better results, and also to maybe gain more time, because you have to do the right tool to develop certain kind of works. And also in that process that I have this kind of migration from photo manipulation, but also I try to combine because I draw certain kind of details with the mouse. So it was pretty difficult at that time, because you don't have the pencil, you have to with the mouse trying to draw a certain kind of things or details.
Yeah, that is horrible.
Yeah. Well, I am talking about 20 years ago. And that's the part, because it's trying to give this personalization, not just to take this certain kind of elements. Okay, that's it. No, give the right personality. That's why also I start to work with the black and white, because it starts with this kind of heavy metal tribute to the old school scene like incantation, blasphemy, this kind of thing, because I try to give it that kind of essence, but translate into my own style. And then when I have the capability to afford the digital tablet, well, it was necessary to give something more personal in the step of my process of creation and to develop myself as an artist.
I'm just looking through your Instagram page, and it's just mind-blowing to me how much work there actually is on there. Like, it's never ending. I'm scrolling down ever since we started talking, basically, and I'm maybe like 2 years back now or so. It's really impressive.
Well, it's something about, we talked about the beginning. I think it's a passion, and it's something that I was talking recently with a friend of mine that have certain kind of personal issues that they don't. Sometimes I think people don't find any kind of reason to being alive, because I think it's in the influence from social media and the pressure of the system that you have to have certain kind of thing, just material things, or the idealization of relationships or certain kind of way of thinking and so on. And when they see their own reality, that they couldn't afford or being part of these supposedly stereotypes, they don't find any kind of meaning to their life. For me, I found it in art, and also art for me, it was a it's a personal tool to maintain myself safe, and also in the past way rescue me from some not pretty good times, who are ups and downs. And doing art, maintain myself consistent, and it's a way to maintain also a way to thinking and a discipline, because being consistent and or that you art, if you are looking at your art being growing up, you have to have a discipline, and the discipline is the consistency and also the evolution of your technique, because also in the process that I started digital manipulation until now, it was also a process when I started to challenge myself to using colors and taking drawing class, painting class, to understand the tools, even in the digital way. But if you understand how to paint, you can understand how to apply colors, create points of lights or so on, because you have the context, the education of your mind, how to apply in your art. And also that's important, have an education, a visual education, obviously the evolution of your technique. You a lot of things, lights, proportion, perspective, and so on.
So do you ever remember So do you ever remember a moment when your frame of mind maybe changed and you started taking your artwork a little bit more seriously than you might have done before, when you started to realize it could become a second job? Was there any kind of transition between it just being a hobby and transitioning into being a job? Do you remember anything like that?
Yeah, I think it was in my 30s, because when I was 24, 25, and it was just like a hobby. Even I started drawing and doing digital manipulation or creations, and I didn't show it to anybody. It was just for me. And I had a girlfriend at that time. It was the only person that saw my creation, and she saw me. She told me, "You have to put in the web." And that time it was MySpace, or at the beginning, and also
the good old
days. MySpace. Good old MySpace, yeah.
Well, I am 42, man.
I mean, of course. I guess it was this more or less kind of the same time around when we started, maybe a couple of years later. But I mean, the first band page we had, like the first kind of social media page, or one of them for the band for 𝔕𝔕 was also a MySpace page. And I remember when we paid someone to make it like a professionally looking MySpace page, like 3 weeks after that or so, MySpace just completely went to shit, and they stopped that you could customize the pages like that and stuff. So it was all the money basically gone.
Yeah, because if you want to personalize, you have to know a little bit of programming. I
exactly.
You have to use HTML or something like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember those days. Oh, wow.
It's such a strange concept now.
It's got shudders.
Yeah, I my girlfriend. Well, coming back, that girlfriend told me, "Well, they are not so bad. You should try to put in the web and try to sell it." And I say, "Well, fuck it. Well, sorry for the course, but."
You can say fuck as many times as you want on here.
And I say, fuck it. If I'm going to have a pretty bad, how can I say, when the people talks bad about you?
You mean in what kind of way talking bad about you?
Criticize. If people are going to criticize, if people are going to criticize your work, they are going to criticize if it's good or if it's not.
Yeah, that's true.
Even
sharing anything online is always, feeding the wolves type thing, and you just got to have thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the first time that I put in my work in Facebook and MySpace. And also approached that at that time, my Facebook don't have too much filters, so I was a pretty bad user in Facebook because I tagged a lot of people to try to get know my work. Yeah, I was.
We just talked about that like 3 episodes. In one of the last 3 episodes, we talked about that. But I mean, it's understandable. And also back then, I think it was a much different time, and it made more sense doing that because the competition wasn't nearly as big as it is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and also I was 20 years younger than.
Mm-hmm.
And also I recognize that it wasn't the better way to do it. Also, I felt I feel a little bit ashamed about that. Yeah.
So was it
But
shortly? How long was it after you started sharing your work online that you started doing commission work?
Well, maybe from that time when I start to show it, maybe it takes like 6 months because I move it. And also what I did at that time is send a private message to the bands or like record labels and so on. And obviously, well, I got rejected a lot of times, but some bands that, yeah, that's part of the history. And I think that's important to understand it because nowadays people tend to look that everything must be right now, something immediately. So that's a lie. You have to have this kind of process because you are developing your skills, managing your tools, and even to knowing to how to manage social media. I think for me, doing reels and artwork and tag person and create this kind of new ways to manage communication through social media. That's something that I have to learn by myself because that's it's part to being an artist nowadays. Not the most important, but you have to use your social media to look to get further, to find new customers or new people that could hire you and so on.
Yeah, I think it's becoming too much of a goal for a lot of people nowadays. That they start creating for an algorithm instead of creating for themselves and creating to get better and to just making good art, quality art, and I think that's becoming quite a plague nowadays. It's just people. I think people tend to forget that it's really just a tool and it's not the end goal to have a big followership and to be like a big Instagram personality or something like that as an artist. That should never be the goal.
Yeah, there's so many people I follow online whose work in whatever medium it is they do that is genuinely incredible, that have like less than say 8 to 10,000 followers, which it's still significant, but given how the platforms are wired, that's not a lot really. And then you look at their work and it's a shame that my brain kind of says, well, that doesn't add up, you deserve more followers. And it's like, no, as long as the work is solid, you could have 20 followers. I don't care if that work, is good. That comes before everything.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I think, and then it's what I said when people don't have their own style. They're trying to being like a celebrity into the social media. And for me, social media, well, it's like a gallery and also a way to have contacts and so on. But you have to be careful because it's also a way to find an illusion and delusion. I was talking with a friend of mine a few years ago because it was a girl. She was asked me, what do I feel when I work with a comedian? The comedian name is Carlos Vallarta, and she told me, how do I feel that to work with Carlos Vallarta if he is my friend? Well, we have a good relation. Well, yeah. The thing I say to her is, well, we have a pretty good relationship with working together. We respect our work. Yeah, I had the opportunity one time to have a few drinks with him, but at the end, he has their own life. We aren't friends. That's part of the illusion. Maybe sometimes you could develop a friendship through the time, but sometimes happens. At the end, you are like you are working artist to artist, or I don't know how do you want to define it. And
like me and Adrian, basically.
I was just thinking that.
Because we started also just as client-artist relation, and we just kept on getting back to each other in certain ways, like in terms of doing work together, and kind of build up a friendship over the years. But yeah, I mean, it rarely happens like that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just our mutual frustration with a lot of the modern day things that kind of got us going.
Yeah, that is very true, actually.
I mean, it's nice. It's nice to have that balance with clients where there's like, I always see it as like a percentage of professionalism and like casual friendship. If you can, I always try and go for like 80% professionalism, and then if you can relax with 20% a little bit, that generally helps the project. And obviously that can differ. I think if you outweigh the other, it can affect the project negatively, I've found. Because I think I'm sure some artists do it and some clients maybe do it. They kind of almost come in a little bit too casual, and you don't quite cover the important serious details that a project can bring up sometimes. And I've definitely learned from that over the years, but when it happens organically, it's great. Like when everyone's happy and you can be professional, creative, have a laugh within the gaps. It is really nice, and it kind of makes the job not really feel like a job, at least for me. And then when you look back on the project, it always has a kind of nice memory to it.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's pretty good. And also for me, it's important when I had the opportunity to meet some bands or artists that to come to Mexico to know each other personally, because at the end it's something different, something more organic. And also for me, it's important. Well, not like important in that kind of way. For me, it's interesting. I think that's the right word. Interesting to know about the personal life. When you talk with them about how being is touring, how being as a musician, and all the things that they have to walk through this path of being an artist, this kind of difficulties, you could find something pretty human, and also something that you could relate on, because at the end you could find this personal side of them, so you could see something different. And I think that's the people there. Well, I don't want to sound narcissistic and so on, but the regular people that see band members or artists, they see like a certain kind of demigods. They think too that they are they have this kind of perfection, or this kind of and at the end they are human like us. And it's and the thing, I had the opportunity to meet some of my personal heroes when I was a teenager, exactly from Rotting Christ, Fernando from Moonspell, many bands. And that's interesting, because you could see how they are as an artist and the evolution of them as a person also, because you had the opportunity to see how much effort takes to be in the position that they are now, and you can learn from that. But at the end, they are humans, and also it's pretty good to have this kind of relationship. And they still have my admiration, but also helps me to don't have this kind of idolatry for these public figures.
It reminds me of what we spoke about recently, Chris, about recognizing the human side. The human side behind these sort of bands and artists that we all admire. We all have our, our idols, but to recognize that human side and to have this job put us in contact, and even in-person contact with some of these people we look up to. What a beautiful thing that is full circle of working together and then meeting up. I think that's one of my favorite parts of doing this as a job, when I get invited out to live shows when bands come over to the UK and we get to meet up in person and have a drink. That's like the cherry on top.
Even if it's just for like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, even if it's just for 2 minutes, definitely.
Yeah, but that's I think it's the pretty cool part of being a graphical artist and being in the medium. For me to know, well, I had the opportunity to meet 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐶. For me, it's one of my artists that inspires me. Well, besides 𝔬𝐵, and 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐶 was one of my most strongly influences to being an artist nowadays, to work with the metal scene and so on. I had the opportunity, yes, I had a few minutes to talk with him, to have the recognition as an artist from another artist that you admire. It's pretty helpful. I think sometimes it helps to find this kind of words, or like, I don't know if to say if it's a reward, but it's kind of good feeling to let you, or to give more strength to keep going, because
I think maybe, to me, it always feels like a confirmation of what I am doing is the right thing to do for me. When you get the opportunity to work with someone as an artist, like to work as an artist with another artist for them, that you have quite a big kind of respect for their work. I think it's kind of it's a very confirming thing that tells you that you're doing the right thing for yourself and for your life.
Yeah, I think sometimes all artists, we get lost in this constant walk in life, because it's quite difficult to have this kind of value to our work, because also talking about value, we talk about monetary things. It's quite difficult. So sometimes you ask yourself if you are doing the right thing, because maybe art isn't the most lucrative thing in Earth. So this kind of thing.
It depends on what currency you're measuring that in, because if it's money as a currency, then absolutely. But if it's freedom, or if it's peace of mind, if it's fulfillment, satisfaction, all these kind of things, I think it can be very, very lucrative, so to speak. But obviously, in terms of money, it's definitely becoming harder and harder as an artist nowadays.
Yeah, well, I was talking about this kind of the money sometimes is harder. But as you said, this kind of recognition of an artist is when you find, well, I think I'm doing the right way. And as you said, being free and have the capability to create and manifest something into the world is something that don't have any kind of value. I am agree with that, because at the end, personally, my art gives me another way to revalue my person, because if wasn't for the art, maybe I didn't have the opportunity to live a lot of things. Maybe talking with you right now, to talking with bands. And talking with bands is because my main musical taste is the metal music, and I have the opportunity to work with them. For me, something that don't have value, something that was the dream of the Nestor teenager. When I had 15 years, I dreamed we doing some art for a band. I'm doing right now. So
do you have any dream clients in mind that you haven't worked with yet?
Well, I would like to work with the Coven. I will. I foresee this kind of witchcraft satanic thing.
That would be a good fit, probably.
Yeah. I don't know, 𝕮𝖆𝖗. I would like to, 𝕮𝖆𝖗𝔕. Many bands. If I do a list, it'd be too long. But I am happy with the thing that I had the opportunity to create during this time. And also,
your references are endless. There is from big to small names, like there is so much stuff in there, and it seems like there's a new one every day. Sometimes I really wonder how you can keep up the workload and also have a job on the other side, because I was actually quite surprised a couple of days ago when we planned the podcast that when you told me that you have a job and you have to plan around the job. I was really surprised because I was like 90% sure that you are a full-time artist.
Well, that's the point. Maybe when I talk about this kind of money thing, it's when maybe I have this kind of topic pretty present because well, here in Mexico, it's different. To have a decent kind of life, you have to work. Well, I think it's happening in all over the world. But here it's different because we have, Latin America and here in Mexico, we have low pay. So you have to work a little, have an extra to have the capability to pay a department, pay rent, water, and you want to travel. And also, as an artist, you have to pay for software, tablets, internet, many kind of things. You have to work. And also, I'm 42, so also I start a few years ago to plan, obviously, maybe something like an old man thing to find a way to earn and buy a house because, well, I'm near to 50, and also having a job or being hired with my age it turns a little bit difficult with the time.
Yeah,
that's fucked up. But enterprises and system.
How old are you again?
42. I am 42.
Ah, well, then saying you're near 50 is a bit of a stretch. I just thought, didn't you just turn 40 in the last couple of years? Maybe making art makes you age quicker.
I definitely feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think I work so hard in art because it's something I actually love. And also, in one point of life, I decided that doing art will be my final destination. So I just try to develop a softer road to walk into the life. So maybe I'm looking certain kind of material thing because at one point I just want to be a little bit secure.
I totally understand the point. I'm feeling the same currently.
I know that it's an illusion, but well, you have to work in something, create or have a plan to do it. And that's
why. I don't think it's
and
necessarily an illusion. I think it just takes much more time than we believe usually. I mean, I often get this feeling of every year I turn older, it feels like I have like an idea of a new project or like a new path of some kind of artistic thing to do that might be like my big solution to my financial issues.
Yeah.
And to get like more of a financial stability, more security and stuff like that. And it never happens really. I don't think it happens like that for most people. It's always like this very, very tiring process of just getting one step closer to the actual goals with every year that passes. But it's never this solution that happens from one year to the next that you suddenly feel like, okay, I've reached this very financial security now and everything's fine and I don't have to worry anymore.
Yeah, there's no end point. There's only the journey to what you perceive as the end point. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I think
the important thing is, though, you keep striving for it. Whatever that thing is, like you say, just keep going for it, and then you'll look back and you'll suddenly have this body of work behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not, at the end, it's not the final destination of ourselves. I think that's why we do art. It's something because we understand that it's something more besides just money and the material thing. As you say, it's for me the part of the illusion of security because at the end, we cannot control a lot of things that is happening around the world.
Yeah.
We have this kind of wars in Ukraine, war in Africa, war in certain kind of thing, and that kind of thing moves the economical markets, and economical markets at the end affects your financial stability. I tried what we could see as a financial. So I think we have to enjoy the road, try to have peace with ourselves. And I think one kind of thing that recently heard is to accept our destination. That if you are an artist, well, that's the part of being an artist. You have to invest a lot of time doing art, and sometimes people they aren't going to understand it. So that's happened, but it's part of being an artist. I think the acceptation of your own reality and your own personality, it's helpful to understand and to find the reason of why you are maybe being into this earth. So for me, in one point, I understand or try to put it clear that, well, for me, art it's my final goal, the way to develop myself in life, and that's why maybe I am working too hard, doing creating something even daily. But also have the grace to be maybe blessed with people that understand and have confidence in my work being hired. But also, well, the crappy part in my side is because I have to do the art in my free time. So mostly I don't have free time. I try to have a couple of days, weekends. I try to do nothing about art or work, nothing. I like to travel or to see my parents, some friends, and so on. And also, I think personally, it was a certain kind of sacrifice that I'm not talking about something that hurts, but I think also it's pretty demanding to do in art. And sometimes you have to it's a pretty jealous profession, and sometimes demands a lot of time. Well, maybe sometimes I have to say no to family reunions, maybe concerts. Sometimes, well, even you have a girlfriend to ask for a time because you have a commission to develop and so on. But at the end, you have to find equilibrium because if you just doing working, well, even your body is going to tell you it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
and also,
we were talking about all these topics quite a lot in the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, it makes me think about our episode on burnout and kind of losing your inspiration. And Nestor, I'm always interested on how different creative people kind of recognize either the signs of burnout or when inspiration's not quite where you need it to be, and the different methods of getting back on track. Do you have anything that you go to when you know that you need a little break, or is there anything that you do that helps you get back on track?
Well, I try to do exercise, go to the gym at least 3 times per week. For me, it's pretty helpful because it's a point, even could work as a way to meditation because you are just focusing lifting weights, and just that the reason to be at the gym, lift weights. And also you have to take care of lifting the weight because you leave something in a pretty good in a bad position, you could get some injuries. So I think it's the way that is just for me. I put my headphone, my music, and do my exercises, and also helps me about the health condition because, well, if I work 8 hours at the university and around 4 hours in art after the university, well, I have certain kind of condition because also your back could get injured. And also,
we can relate to that.
We've been talking about the back issues and all that
we've just
shit
made
as well.
The bad back club, I think. This is our first bad back club session.
Yeah. Well, also, I have a routine right now because one day per month, I have to go into chiropractic with a deconstruction massage, well, like a massage in your back, and to help me to get relaxed the nerves of the back and part of, well, full back. and it helps me. But my therapist told me that it's something that I have to do it at least one day per month. It's yes or yes, and also takes supplements. Well, I took protein, creatine, magnesium, that is for the nerves, complex B or something like that. I don't know if the pronunciation is the right. And also it's healthy because, you are sit all the time. Well, I gain weight too fast for me, so I have to take care of the way how to eat, trying to not drink too much. I love to drink. I love tequila and mezcal, so or whiskey or rum. But I use destinate one day. But also it's the day for decompression. Decompression, the way that I go out with some friends and talk any kind of silly thing. Don't think anything about.
That is such a necessary part, though. Like, especially in this lifestyle, I think you have to have outlets that help you get detached a bit from the daily whirlwind of creativity in your mind. Because I think if you don't have that as an artist, then at some point it starts consuming you, and you just lose your shit at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's something that, it's something human. Even I love to be alone. I to spend my time doing my creative process, listening to my own music, create art. I prefer to do it by my own. But at the end, you have to have this kind of conversation with the outside world, because also I think could happen, or the solitude lead you to this kind of way to just think that you are right in all ways. Sometimes you need to listen another point of views, even about art and so on. That's I think it's important to know another artist, to talk about the different process of creation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why the podcast came.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this whole thing here.
Yeah, we completely agree. Because it's easy to get lost in your own kind of your little creative cave, or and kind of not really look out for a while. But like you say, there's very human needs of connection outside of that, and it's unhealthy to go too long, I think, without that.
Yeah, and I think those certain people tend to have the stereotype of the artist that we live in a cave and we are like these two philosophical guys, and we just have to talk about something serious, and we don't have any kind of sense of humor. That's not it. And that
was me for a few years ago. I was definitely caught in a bad case of that. I'm glad I came out the other side of that, though. I definitely took my work way too seriously. Yeah. And I managed to recognize that, which I'm glad.
Yeah, and that's important. And I think that's when you talk with another kind of person or with an artist, it's good to know about the human part, because also I think the real deals, or I think sometimes the bigger problem that we could have is something that it's in our mind, something emotional, something that sometimes we think that we are feeling just alone. And we know when you give yourself the opportunity to meet another kind of artist, you talk about maybe this kind of feelings, or maybe, as you say, lack of inspiration or burnout or away. And the other person could understand you. I could tell you how maybe he processed that kind of feelings, and how he, I forgot the word.
Yeah, but I think that's a very important point to raise, especially considering the isolation that most artists put themselves in their daily lives. I mean, for you, maybe it's a bit less of an isolation, because you do have your outside job where you're actually going outside every workday and be surrounded by people and work with other people. I guess that probably that's not such a bad thing as a balance, as a contrast to the artist's isolation.
Yeah, yeah. Then you have the opportunity to talk and have a little bit, have a more human relationships and to talk maybe with
exactly.
another kind of thing.
And even if it's just outside art, I mean, that might not be the worst thing actually, to give you like a bit more of a a change in the mindset every now and then to just, as I said before, step away a bit from that creative whirlwind.
Yeah, and I think, and also, well, it helps you to have a little time to relax yourself, to talk maybe what's happening with, I don't know, with a certain kind of TV show, or maybe they talk about something. Maybe they talk about something
normal
personal.
Life stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And also helps you to go out from this, as you say, the creative world, because sometimes I think that's the part that maybe it's difficult, just trying to talk about our thinking, create concepts, and sometimes you overthink and so a lot of things.
But also,
I think it also. Sorry, Adrian.
No, go. It's okay.
I was just thinking. Sometimes, I think a lot of artists probably tend to have that tendency to take themselves too seriously and go down into this hole too deeply and just get stuck there. And I think it's important as an artist, even though whatever you're doing, if it's like a genre that is to be taken seriously as an art form, and you deal with topics that are serious topics, or like philosophical concepts, deeper kind of stuff, I think still, or even more so, it's important to be able to differentiate between when to be serious about it and when to step away and maybe take an outside look and maybe stop taking it so seriously in that moment, and taking yourself so seriously as well. You have to be able to laugh at yourself and to incorporate some kind of humoristic aspects into this kind of lifestyle. I think that's a very important point.
A lot of the deep philosophies that cover sort of a lot of the deeper thoughts, a big part of that will be to allow yourself to be the fool and laugh along with your mistakes, acknowledge other people are human and will make mistakes. And if you're not laughing as well as taking things seriously, then generally you're considered out of balance. Yeah. And obviously balance is the ideal kind of middle ground. Yeah.
I remember an interview. It was for a esoteric magazine, this kind of satanic thing. And they asked me, how do I deal with everyday life? And I think, well, here in Latin America, in my case, I have a pretty deep relationship with my family. Mm-hmm. So I like to go to see my father, to my mother, my brother, nephews, and so on, and live another kind of life and see the part of the occult or the dark kind of thing. Also, it's personal. And I think that's important, to have the right mindset. When do you have to have this kind of character? Because you're going to talk about art, talk about art. If you're going to talk about the occult, you have to find the right spot to talk about the occult. You're not going to talk about Satanism and so on. I fellas from my job, they want to talk about maybe football. They want to talk about another kind of thing. So that's important too, and to know when do you have to talk about certain kind of topics.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I completely agree. Yeah. It just reminds me, just on a quick personal anecdote, there was someone I was chatting to the other day, and she was talking about making a painting for a dog that had recently passed away. So I kind of put in a relatable note of using art as a form of therapy, and it came up that I was an artist. And as I said it, I anticipated her asking me what kind of art I made. And I instantly was just like, just kind of dark, weird stuff. And it instantly changed the subject. I was like, this conversation, I don't need to be going into the darkest parts. So yeah, having that kind of recognition of when to switch kind of mindsets, I think that's definitely an important one.
Yeah, and I talk with, I answered in the interview. Well, I'm a regular guy. I have my everyday life. I go to the job. I have to take a public transportation. I have to pay certain kind of bills at the bank, or I have to go to the gym. You have to have certain kind of relationship with the people. So that's normal. I think it's part of being conscious.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of being conscious. You have to be conscious in the point of your life. What are you doing? Well, it's the essence of being conscious. It's know who you are in that kind of exact time that you're being aware. I know we are talking about art and have this kind of discussion, or talking about our process. So it's different.
I think there's always a difference to be made, or like the awareness to be had, that we all have so many faces and so many different parts of our characters. We tend to identify with as one whole being, but I think that concept always leaves a lot to be desired, because we're never just like 100% ourselves. I think we always switch from mindset to mindset, and from character shifts to character shifts, depending on the situations we are currently in, or like the day we have, the mood we feel like, and the health that is currently, like the health status that's currently there. And I think it's important to accept the fact that we can't always be 100% that one person that we think we are. Like I'm not always the visual artist. I'm not always the musician. Sometimes I'm just a fucking idiot having a beer with friends and playing a game or like something like that. It's the most natural thing that everyone has their different facets. Everyone has their different sides, and it's important to accept that and to be aware of that.
It's learning to separate. I think the times when you are working on the inner work and then the outer work. Obviously, like I've always seen when I'm in creative mode, that's kind of my time to be as internal as I'm probably ever going to be. Yeah, and then carrying that out into the outer world generally doesn't go well, because you don't quite interact with people as, you know, society might expect. So I think it's a healthy kind of recognition of switching them up. And like you say, even those moments of being, I won't say the opposite of being that kind of inner looking creative, but it's just another aspect of what goes into that. And kind of having the mindset of being able to be comfortable in all those different areas. Yeah. I always imagine it's probably the healthiest way of seeing everything, to be honest.
I actually spent quite a few years always worrying about these things, and I still do. It's kind of wired into my mind, I guess. This kind of thought that you always have to live up to your deepest, or like to your highest standards that you always carry around with you. And I'm sure a lot of artists, most artists, I would say, do have quite high standards that they take themselves to. And yeah, I think it's important to learn that it's not always necessary to live up to these standards all the time, and to allow yourself to be human and to make mistakes, and to always just to also just fail in certain things, or
it's all part of that path. Sorry,
I heard a guy a few years ago called 𝕮𝖆𝖗𝐿. He's a magician. He was one of the guys from the Three Memphis. He was at Yale, maybe 18 years at the death row, and they came out, and it was pretty famous, that case, as it was involved Johnny Depp and a lot of artists. And he also says that he was studying magic at that time. And it was something about this kind of looking of the happiness. That kind of the road that people tends to look for these high peaks on their life. Happiness is it's like happiness is just a moment of life when you get the goal done, the goal done. Okay, I did it. Okay, but the life is still going. So he said that that's the problem when people tends to look be at the top of the time always. And he said that the maybe happiness is find the peace in the moments of life that is not happening too much, because it's the moment that you have this kind of stability, because you aren't worried about a pretty difficult thing. Maybe you are worried, well, I have to pay this kind of bill. You know, the working, you are going to have enough money to pay the bills and so on. You aren't in a pretty bad problem. So yeah, I think also in order to happen the same, people tends to be always at the moment at the peak. I have to doing this. I think that yeah, you have to be trying to do your best and evolve in your skills. That's something of the art, and that's the only way that your work is getting better and better. And with this quality, also people tends to look at your arts in a different way, and also to find new clients. But if you want to live always in this kind of peak of the recognition of the media, well, you're going to get lost at the end. Trying to be what's the word? Trying to be that the masses, the social, give you a
Famous.
value. Yeah, get famous or being validated. That's the word. Being validated by the media of the people. It's just like something that it's nonsense, because the validation it's like a void. It's going to devour, ask for more and more. And the thing is,
I think
you
it's not
don't
going to be
have,
if you can't fulfill it from the inside. It's probably impossible to fill it from the outside.
yeah, and I think, well, personally, talking something personal, I think for me that's why it's important for me. That's part of the spiritual path. Maybe even it talk about it the dark path and so on. At the end, every magical or spiritual path, even it's considered white or black or whatever, they talk first about being conscious of yourself. When you have consciousness of yourself, you know you are departing from this kind of sketch, because at the end, I don't think that we could know each other at 100%. But you could have a certain kind of raw sketch about who you are, and departing from that, you could create goals or take decisions for a certain kind of thing that you could have on your on your field. That could you work on it, not trying to create these kind of illusory goals, because I want to be like that kind of artist or the big art, or the big name. Well, your reality maybe couldn't be the same, because maybe you are living in another country. The economical capabilities are different. I don't know, many kind of things. I think when you know who you are and your tools and the consciousness of who you are, and the tools that you have in your control of yourself, or you could control to develop certain kind of work and so on, you could take certain kind of decision or create certain kind of goals could be attached by yourself. And also it's helpful, because you at that point you cannot try to reach the goals of somebody else. It's your own goals, it's your own know. And also the other part of the spirituality that helps me is to know it's something else. Something else of the reality, something else about far away from the economical system, or the society imposition of how do you have to live, or that type of shit that makes sometimes pressure on yourself. And when you have this kind of idea or feeling that it's something else, well, it's something liberating. It's a moment of total freedom, because you live and you create your own, maybe in one moment of your life, your own reality, your own freedom. You could feel it, you could express it. And also that's why the art I try to add this kind of mystical essence or this kind of personal thing into my art, because it's a way to also to reflect why I feel, I think, I believe, to making me free, give me a moment of freedom. And also maybe it was a little bit silly, but also it's trying to be or reach a moment of eternity, to leave a scar in the skin of eternity. Maybe it's something silly, but also that.
No, I don't think that's silly at all. I think that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of what the goal is when creating art for most people that take it seriously and don't look at it as a job, but rather as a destination or a passion or like the purpose in their lives. I think that's what you want to do, like create work that leaves its mark and that becomes timeless.
I think there's a skill in recognizing when your mind starts maybe drifting off into, like you say, about kind of trying to create maybe work that looks like others or things you aspire to. There's a skill in bringing your mindset back to you and your work and kind of starting from square one again with each piece, just living life in that way generally. Like we know the modern world generally kind of goes against most kind of independent thinking, or at least I always feel like it does. So to learn when you're maybe starting to drift, kind of, like I say, pull back to square one, start again. If you can hone that as a skill, especially within the work that we do, I think that's quite an important aspect of putting out your work that is yours, rather than letting other influences kind of have too much power over that. And it's not always easy.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I think that's the real thing to do in art, is looking this kind of freedom in all ways. It's the moment that you could create what you want to create. Well, the value maybe we're looking this kind of validation for the masses.
I think there's an organic recognition as well that I always feel like is quite healthy in terms of artists supporting artists, rather than look at this thing I've made, please like it. There's for me, it's always two separate kind of entities, which I think we've spoken about before in terms of sharing work and having that kind of creative cycle that, like we mentioned right at the start about following each other's work. As much as I kind of dislike social media, I love that it's created opportunities like this one right now. I don't think we'd be chatting like this if we didn't choose to share our work and be influenced by others to some degree. It's just having that awareness of, kind of learning to take it in and process it in a really natural way.
I think that isn't that like one of the biggest advantages, or the biggest qualities to art is connecting people in that very natural way, because it's such a universal language that transcends all the stupid mundane human boundaries, or like the society boundaries, the demographical boundaries, all these things that don't really matter at the end when it comes to connecting to someone on a deeper level. I think it transcends it. It really has that quality to transcend all these barriers and create real human connection.
It's like a tunnel under a busy city, and only creative people have access to that tunnel.
That is really, that's such a nice metaphor, really. Yeah,
where you just get a break from the noise above you, and you get to just connect and chat and encourage each other and do your thing. It's a nice kind of it's a nice
network.
Network, or like a channel of consciousness that we all kind of get to hop on as we feel works for us, and kind of hop off when we need or anything. I've always enjoyed that kind of romantic view of it.
Yeah, I think that's the part. So for me, the only thing or negative of social media is I think at the end is how to use it, because also you could see in your algorithm, you're going to see just shit, that you're going to receive shit. You're looking for art, or you're looking to connect with people that could give you something kind of value things. You're going to receive that kind of thing. I think that's the part also. It's about the education about people, how to use social media. I think that young generation that are in the schools, maybe they should have a classes about how to use correctly social media. Don't look and make that kind of shitty things. At the end, for us as an artist, it's like a platform to show our art. We don't have to be attained to have a gallery to show our art. For me, that I'm start to doing exhibition, believe me, it's a mess, because the thing of being censored, or if you're not part of the group of the artists that own the gallery, you aren't worthy to being part or developing or have an exhibition on their place, or are extremely expensive and so on. So also,
there is a lot of the snob in there, in the gallery world. A lot of this elitism, snob kind of attitude.
Yeah, I was talking recently with the guy of the festival. Maybe we could have this kind of opportunity to do an exhibition, but I have to pay by myself about the structure and so on. But well, that's another history. And I was talking with him that in galleries, they want to charge an insane amount of money to have an exhibition. And that's fucked up. And also, as you said, the people that this kind of supposedly intellectual artists, high-minded guys.
Yeah, I just remember this funny meme from a couple of weeks ago. It's a picture of some like really snobby business guys having a laugh outside of a building. And then in the back, you see like some really chaotic looking, freaky guy that is having his worst time. And on top it says, of the two business people, it says people who consume art. And then with the chaotic guy in the back, it says people who make art. And sometimes it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, obviously exist people that is worthy into the world of art, but sometimes they close the door because you don't belong to their group. And I think that's it's part of bad. Well, that's not the right word. It's part of, it's not good, it's not fair about that. But at the end, it's life. And for me, I don't have a lot of connection with the world of galleries and so on. I started doing art just because I just wanted to do it. I just want to do art.
It's not necessary as an artist nowadays anyway to be part of that. I mean, it's nice, it's fine if there's opportunities there that make sense and that are not too exploitative, but also you can absolutely just be a lifelong artist without ever having been in a gallery or something.
I've had opportunities over the years to work with various galleries, and I think of all of them, there's been one that's been genuinely positive. All the others have come with various issues and complications.
Yeah, same here.
And after a few years of trying it, I underlined it as something that just wasn't for me, didn't line up for me at all.
Yeah, for me, I'm working with a partner, so, but the thing I'm looking to appear in galleries is to expand the capability to show my work. Mm-hmm. It's not looking at validation, it's looking to have another way to being more, my work gets better now, maybe in another kind of circumstances outside of the metal world. That's why I'm looking. I'm
Well, people
looking
get to see
for
your work
comparison gallery.
in person as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. Looking for the galleries to look and to being in contact with another kind of different people outside of the metal world. That's the purpose behind
I'm
it.
sure there's a lot of galleries that are doing really positive things. Like, just because, like I say, my experience, I'm positive that doesn't reflect all galleries. If you can find a mutual way of working together, it can be incredibly positive. But that's something that made me... So my experience with the galleries made me really, really appreciate working with bands and labels, because just referring back to the meme you mentioned, Chris, if we kind of picture that as in all the bands and us as the artist, we'd all be that person in the back, you know, like all kind of like rough and ready creatives all kind of working together rather than there being any kind of corporate front on anything.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I just trying to look and trying to take my art in another fields. But at the end, you said, well, it's part of life. It's to find kind of snob people and pretty good guys who want to have a pretty good interaction with you. Also, but I think it's part of the evolution of the project, or maybe it's what my project is looking for. Because at the end, we talk about freedom. You have the capability to decide or to choose where you're at. Would you like to be exposed or develop or something? So
Yeah,
maybe I'm
definitely.
looking another kind of way. Also to be a little bit outside of the metal world. It's not anything against that, because I love metal and I'm pretty grateful with the metal scene, because at the end they built my career in one way. But also I had the opportunity to look something further, and that's something that I'm looking for right now with this kind of exhibition in galleries.
Definitely.
But at the
Yeah, I
end,
can really
there's
respect
absolutely
that.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us kind of forget that how much control we have over where our work goes and how it's seen. So yeah, I can definitely respect you taking that additional path with your work. Yeah, definitely. And I'd love to see the photos once it's all ready to go.
Yeah, and that's a project. At the end, maybe I don't know how much it could work, because, as I said, it's pretty difficult. And also, I don't look for validation for being considered an artist. I think that being an artist is what you do from your heart, and you try to express something you create from your own hands. So it's just something that I want to explore right now. Maybe it could work for a years. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe not. But if you don't if you don't try it, you don't give you the opportunity. You don't know if it works or not. You just
Absolutely.
take this kind of opportunity, and you having the capability to invest in that. Well, do it. If not, well, that's fine too. Because at the end, maybe, well, right now I don't have kids and so on. So that's something that's helpful for me to invest 100% in doing art and just focusing the thing that I really want. But maybe the situation changed. Maybe, well, the opportunities will be different. And that's it. It's just trying to explore something. It's not talking about it's good or wrong. At the end, you are your own master of your art, so you could decide the point that you want to lead your work and your efforts and so on.
I think it's healthy not to look too far ahead as well. Like you say, about taking the opportunity, seeing it for what it is and how it works out. And then, like you say, if it works out in your favor, maybe try it again. And if it doesn't, know that you've tried it. And kind of, I think it's probably easy to look quite far ahead, and when things don't always go as planned, it doesn't always feel great. So recognizing the opportunities as kind of maybe single moments and gauging it from there. I'd probably agree that's like a really, really good way to see it. Because then if that goes well for you with the gallery, that can open up other opportunities that maybe you hadn't had in mind. And me and Chris have spoke about before in terms of being open to all these opportunities that may come up that we hadn't had in mind. And I think looking too far ahead can sometimes cut in front of those.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to kind of go back onto the whole, kind of coming back to the whole square one mindset, you've just using the gallery work as an example, bringing it back to you and what you want and how you want your work to be perceived is probably the most important frame of mind, I think, for a modern artist to have. And I really appreciate that you've kind of brought up something like that for us to really settle in, because it's not really something I've ever had in mind, but I think it's really important of making sure that you are fully comfortable in not just what you're doing, but how you are managing it and all the various plates that we spin. And I'm definitely going to carry that in mind, I think, for the near future, and really consider how I'm implementing that in my work. I think you've just opened up a new little avenue for me to explore in my own mind, so I'm very grateful for that.
And I think it's important for the young generation that are trying to live from art, because exists a lot of myths behind it. Because what they say is just the final results. They don't see the process and the process of creation, the process of being or have the name that you earn with through the time. Because, well, maybe Adrian Baxter, how many years is it gets you to being in your position? Well, a decade or more, and what I talk about the develop your skills to have this kind of approach to being better in what you do. Why they think that, well, and nowadays with the artificial intelligence, they use both some kind of words or create a prompt and something appears without any kind of effort. So that's another kind of people are struggling, or the fear is behind the new artist. I talked with a guy from graphic designer students. A few weeks ago, I went to do a conversation with them about my art and the process of creation or creativity. Also, me as a graphic designer, and they have a lot of fear about the artificial intelligence, because they felt or they feel that they are going to be obsolete. And at one point, maybe they could be obsolete if they don't start to manage something kind of different thing. And I told them
to adapt to the whole thing. I think that's a very valid fear, though, and I think that should be something to consider for not just artists, but a lot of different fields as well. But
that can inspire new ideas or new paths that they might not have had in mind. It's not always necessarily a negative.
Yeah, and I told them the thing that could maintain them alive, it's the concept. You have to have a pretty good concept behind your graphic design and behind your art, because it's the real thing that is going to be functional in one point. We're talking in a pretty practical way. You have a pretty good concept, you could communicate it the right way. And I mean, you could create as a graphic designer. And also, I was talking with the someone from 𝔬𝔤𝔬𝔪𝔢. He's a graphic designer too. We were talking about the artificial intelligence. I use it in my graphic design facet. If I'm going to do a small business banner for Instagram, well, I could create an image, but the other they choose the typography, the right color palette, and the disposition of the elements, being functional and give the right message that the business wants to give to the people. Well, it depends on you. At the end, if you don't have a pretty good conceptualization, at the end you are you couldn't have a pretty good result because it doesn't have any kind of meaning behind it, because you think, and I see, and it's part of the important the process of creation, the part of the conceptualization and knowing the way of semiotics and the management of symbols and this kind of concept, the concept behind that helps you to create a pretty solid message behind it. And I think, well, don't be afraid. Just try to manage and to create something pretty interesting, something that could create or break the barriers of the what do you see every day. But try to be into the right track to communicate what the business or the work needs to be communicated. That's the good the advice I could give you to you. But they feel overwhelming. And I think most of the artists nowadays also feel overwhelmed with this kind of artificial intelligence. And mostly when you see big bands using as a cover art, you see, oh, come on, you could pay for an artist, or even you could open as a well in your Instagram. You could do a post. We are looking for the next artist to do our cover art, and even for free, somebody's going to use it.
I'm just
yeah.
I've been staring on this Deicide artwork that you did for them, which is pinned to your Instagram profile for most of this talk.
Yeah,
because the profile is opened in the back. And I kept asking myself how you feel about that artwork, because you did that for the album, for their last album that they used AI as a cover, which was fucking horrible. It was such an abomination. And I keep thinking they could have easily just taken this artwork that you did for them as an album cover, and it would have been like a million times better.
Yeah, indeed. But the thing is, you're looking more and more at bands, big names of bands using as a cover art. And the thing, well, I had a problem with a client. Where I have to decline and give him the money back because it was a horrible experience with that guy. But horrible. Imagine I opened my chat, my messenger, and I saw, well, I have to scroll a couple of times to try to read what he wrote me the last night, and give me supposedly their observations and give me their reference with a lot of image created with AI.
Mm-hmm.
They have to scroll. Imagine the quantity of text and images that they send me every day. And at one point they told me, I'm done. I can't do it. And he told me, well, 𝕮𝖆𝖗𝖐, he worked with this guy, and I told him, well, do you know that it was a AI cover? Because also he started because, well, he supposedly, I don't know if it's true or not, he wrote to that guy and he charged 400 euros and so on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I think a lot of people are trying to do nowadays, like just these fucking cheap leeches that just generate these masses of shitty AI pictures and put like maybe some Photoshop filter on it that makes it a little bit look like an illustration even or so. And then they just fill up these profiles and start writing to bands. I've gotten quite a few of those to the 𝔚𝔕𝔕 page as well. And I immediately recognize them, of course, and always just block them. But yeah, it's become a practice among these people, and there's more and more of these leeches that are trying to find ways to just create cheap income and scam bands into buying their crap that they've done in like 2 minutes. And it's just they are nothing else but leeches. Just there's no better word for that.
But the thing is, it's both parts, because also the people who give validation to that kind of scammers is the people who don't want to pay anything.
Yeah.
So that guy, he told me, He's cheaper. Well, do you know that? And in one point he told me, yeah, okay, go to him. You're free to work with that guy if you feel that my work is it's not enough and it's too expensive. If it's something a better option, go there. And also it happened a few months ago with a band that they pay for an artwork and they got scammed with a guy who uses AI, and they come to me, okay, could you help? Okay, yeah, I could do it. And also, well, my process to work with the band, I make a draft with handmade draft in a paper, and a lot of ideas. I send to them the ideas and maybe create this kind of hybrid with taking elements from the idea that I sent before. Then we choose I create another draft with all the ideas mixed together. Then when the draft is approved, I start the process of creation in the technique. And if it's digitally, well, I scan or I take a picture of the draft and I start the process to maybe fixing certain kind of proportion of element, doing correctly and so on, and then start applying the colors and textures and so on. But at the end, it's happening too often that people it's getting scammed by this kind of profile that sell art by ridiculous prices. And but the thing, I don't know if the bands or the people that are buying, they truly don't know that. But I think it's quite a mixture. There exists people that prefer to not pay for an artist and do something cheaper than really work with that. And also the excuse is it's about the time. Because you see, well, I need certain kind of time to develop the art that you want because it's a process. It's like a painting with the handmade technique. It takes time, even if digitally, and maybe I could be a little bit faster, but I need time because maybe you are going to see a certain kind of element that you don't like it. To modify it, well, I need to have a procedure to do that and to exchange or to resolve that kind of thing. And that's when this kind of the immediately way to resolve things gets us to a problem. That's when they prefer to pay nothing and have something quicker because supposedly they don't have enough time to invest in a creation. They prefer to pay for
to be cheap motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Well, they're saving money, but they're tarnishing their own discography. Like, surely that's not worth the money that they're saving. And they're putting off a lot of fans as well. Like, the repercussions for it are huge.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, like, the people that actually go that route, they don't deserve better. And also, they're probably not worth the consideration of being artists. Like, in the way of... Their art is probably coming from the same kind of place, like they treat their visual side, and that can be a good place if this cheap crap that they want to go for, and they can't tell the difference of actual quality work and handmade work and stuff that needs time. Then I guess they get what they pay for, and they get a shitstorm, hopefully, as well, and rightly so.
Yeah, and I think it's the nonsense part of the supposedly being or name yourself as an artist when you're looking to certain kind of thing, the cheaper thing, just to earn certain kind of money.
Yeah, but they will all learn their lesson once there's established AI bands, and that's coming as well. It's coming for all the artistic departments, and not just those, but those in the first place. It's been visual art has just been the first one, and it's coming for writing now. It's coming for video, even more so with this new Google thing that they just put out, like this new AI video generator thing, which is insanely realistic in the first couple of seconds. If you don't pay a lot of attention, then you can get fooled very easily, and it's going to come from music as well, and it's been doing so already. And all those people who are now fine with AI being used as album artworks, they won't really appreciate if AI music is stealing their businesses. And yeah, that's going to be a reality as well.
Yeah, but in essence, they lost the track, because at the end, the part of doing art is the way to it's the last field of humanity, I think, that have to be considered free or keep this kind of humanity. That's good.
I said the exact same thing at the very end of the last episode we did, and it's definitely a topic that is a very interesting one nowadays. I also think so. I think it's super important to keep up the value of art when it comes to society, still having kind of a couple of points that protected from total, complete decay of the mind. I think art is one of these very last protectors of that.
Exactly. But at the end, something that it's another fight that we have to have as an artist in life. I think that's the important part for art. It's this kind of, it's like a constant fight against everything. It's the way, as we constantly say, it's the only way to set your spirit free. This kind of reality. It's a way that it's beyond everything. As you say, don't have any kind of value, monetary value to do art and to express what you feel, what you want, and also to touch the souls of the spectator. That's something that don't have any kind of value. And also, I think that sometimes we cannot see how far our art could touch the life of the people.
Yeah, true.
Because people says, a lot of people is seeing our art. Maybe they aren't putting in contact with us and telling us that, oh, wait, my life changed. Your art changed my life. But maybe at one point it's happening. So I think it's important to keep this kind of personality or being unique in your own field or in your own art, your own beliefs, keeping true in your own way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to end it.
Okay. So guys, thank you too much for the space. A big salute from Mexico.
You have a good day. I mean, for us, it's almost night. It's almost bedtime. So yeah, but it's been a pleasure having you. It's been super interesting talk, and yeah, we're always in contact anyway. And you always support both our stuff quite immensely. And by the way, just thank you for that a lot. That always means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's important. I think instead of being all he's doing better than me, it's well support that the artist that the other person. Well, that's most important, because at the end it's the only way to grow up as a community.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely true.
That's the only way. You have the capability to recommend the work of, because I can't do the line work that Adrian do, and the 3D work that you do. I'm not in that kind of field. If somebody asks me, "Oh, could you do that?" Well, I can't do it. Let me share the guys, the masters, they hire this kind of party, and you can share it with them. And I think it's the part of the community. You share your art, and also you talk about this kind of spaces. You have the capability to talk about art and creativity, this kind of thing. It's open, and at the end creates, as I said, creates this kind of contacts that we cannot see. But we are creating certain kind of network in our fields, or people that could be related with we are talking about it. Mm-hmm. And it's part to, if you see something, they have the talent, you could support it, we do it. If you have the opportunity or the chance, do it. If not, well, that's the right too. You cannot be the savior of everybody.
I think sometimes the feeling for it gets lost in the flood of everyday social media business, I guess. It's something I have to constantly remind myself of as well, to not just scroll through, but actually do at least put a damn like on the stuff that I actually do like. It's no effort at all, and sometimes sharing something, sometimes leaving a comment or so. It's important to remind yourself of that stuff.
Yeah, as we talked a few hours ago. Maybe if you give a like to an artist, maybe an emerging artist or somebody you start to follow or you discover, you give a like, maybe that like is something pretty meaningful to them, because maybe that
absolutely,
because,
of course,
because maybe that person is inspired by your work or admires your work.
Yeah.
So when I had the opportunity to give a like, so when I receive a like from an artist I like, I did it. I did it. We talked a time before. We had the opportunity with work with these masters of music, masters for art, and we had the opportunity. We talk with them. It's something pretty meaningful to us because, as you said, I'm doing. I decided maybe I had certain kind of doubts in the past or in the present because I don't know. Certain kinds of life happens, and maybe this little like from that kind of artist that you admire, it changed maybe your day because okay, I did it. That person that I admire recognized my effort, because at the end, the art that you post today is the result of many years of work.
Yeah, true.
Many years, and it's like as you said, I choose well. It's worthy what I'm doing. As an artist. The difficult part of being an artist, because all the discipline, time, and being consistent that sometimes takes our free time. It's like, okay, it's worthy. My effort or my sacrifice for many years, it's getting this kind of fruits that we what's the word? It's like the result that we have during the time.
Oh, yeah. You mean you build up to over the years?
Yeah, build up. Yeah, something like that. But that's the message line. If you could give a like, do it.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good final note. Everyone out there, especially the artists among you, next time you see a piece that you like, leave a comment, or give it a share. And it might come back to you as well in a different form.
Indeed.
Exactly. Okay.
So thank you for your time, Nestor. This has been a really interesting chat.
Well, thanks. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.